Thank you, Colin. That's very exciting. Pleased to be here in London. I've lived in London for 3 years. My accent anyways. I try my best. Sorry about the last name. I didn't have a choice when I got born. So, as a matter of fact, if you listened into Tom's speech earlier, I think what I'm trying to do is really to close the gap and give you an insight of where we are in Germany and what we as 7TV try to do about the situation that Tom outlined and the potentially scary situation of as we call the fungus, the big US players coming to the market. So you see behind 7TV there's two strong shareholders. On the one hand we have ProSiebenSat.1, for whom I've worked 5.5 years before that. ProSiebenSat.1 is potentially the largest free-to-air broadcaster in the German market, comparable to ITV in the UK. On the other side it's Discovery Networks. The original 7TV platform was a product that was offered by ProSiebenSat.1 Group. As you know, the ITV Hub, it very much relates to that. So we had catch-up content of the 7 free-to-air channels. We had a live stream in there. And we were sort of contemplating where, I'm good. So you didn't hear me. Did you hear me or should I repeat everything? No, okay, you're nodding, good. So now this feels like I'm gonna sing a little bit. So it is a 50-50 venture. So ProSieben carved out the 7TV proposition that we initially had in the market, brought it into the venture, and Discovery took the 50% share of that, adding their channels to it as well. And the idea is obviously to create an OTT platform out of that, fighting the issues that Tom outlined earlier today. So starting off with a little bit of an insight of the German market, of where we are today, where you see the dotted line in the middle. This is literally where we are to date. This is 2017. I've split it up into 3 different monetization layers. The one is a subscription-based model. In Germany, we see, we come to that in a minute, we see various players. In addition to Netflix and Amazon, we have local players as well in the market. We have the advertising-based revenues, and we have transactional video. Where you see transactional is sort of like staying stable, which means over the course of time, they are losing in total. Both advertising and subscription-based models are literally doubling, or are expected to double within the next 5 years. At least this is what you see. IHS is in there as well as the figures, which the figures say, as we all don't know, but this is what we expect to see. This is the landscape that I outlined earlier that we are looking into the German market. So I've tried to carve out the relevant players. Obviously there might be missing a few, but just to give you an overview, and I think not to going too deep into the German market, but there is literally, like, so if you see the vertical piece, this is the business model. As I said earlier, it's advertising, subscription, and transactional businesses. And then on the downside, on the horizontal layer, you see the linearity level. We do see pure linear offerings in the German market, like Zattoo, Magent, TV Spielfilm, Waipu, as like maybe replicating the regular TV business. You see Sling TV in the US, for instance, doing sort of the same thing. Then you see a layer of like the catch-up, partially live as well. I've split that up into 2 different things because I personally believe that sport is somehow a different story. We all know if your favorite football team or your rugby team is playing, you do want to watch that at that time. So it is a different approach of like having premium content. I've added Eurosport Player, which is a Discovery product. In Germany, they own the Bundesliga rights for a certain amount of games. And you see the library stuff, see the public broadcasters, you see our product to date, you see the RTL proposition, and then on top right you see the different OTT players from the on-demand layer, which I've split up into the pure TVOD, the pure SVOD, and then the hybrids. Hybrids, as you may know, offer both the TVOD and the SVOD. Most likely in the UK you will know the Amazon offering. Whereas in Germany, one of our shareholders, ProSiebenSat.1, also owns Maxdome. They do TiVo and SVOD as well, with an offering of around 60,000 titles. So this is literally just to give you a framework of the market of where we are today, and I'm going to come to the idea of where we want to bring 7TV and where we believe there is a spot of fighting the troubles of all these players coming to the market in a minute. Before we get there, let me literally outline to you what I believe is the challenge, the core challenge, and I think that applies to any market. I've taken US figures here. What you do see is at the end of the day, the hours and minutes that you watch television or let yourself entertain is stuck, right? It's actually, even if we believe the figures for 2018, the focus actually going down from 517 in 2014 down to 512. So that means at the end of the day, you as a person, as a consumer, you don't have more than these 5 hours and a few minutes that you consume whatever you do. When I was little, I had 4 channels at home. That was my consumption. I used the same amount of time to consume them. Now I have, I don't know, I turn on my satellite, I have 100 channels. I have Amazon Prime, I have Netflix, I have Maxdome in Germany. So there's numerous more things challenging around the same amount of time that you have per day, per week, per month, apart from you doing your sports, meeting your family, potentially working if you have to. But what do we see? We do see a switch from classical television that was at 4.5 hours at 2014 going down to less than 4 hours projected in 2018. So competition is getting larger, more players entering the markets, and there is a switch from the classical television to the online video, which is what we're trying to face. So what does that mean for us as 7TV? What does it mean for the market? I've tried to carve out 5 key essential pieces to that. Number 1, we do see an increasing online video consumption. That means, specifically in Germany, there is a growing willingness to pay. Germans hate to pay. They do not like it, right? Everything is free. They get 50, 60 relevant channels. They get their Bundesliga, they get their main sports, World Cup coming out, everything's for free. So they hate to spend their $7.99. But they are starting to get it, right? Maxdome is grown for more than 1 million subscribers now. We see Netflix, Amazon Prime substantially growing in the German market, so people get it. They do need to buy for premium content. And so there is an acceptance also for higher ARPUs. The second piece is there is, well, relates to that, a growing number of subscribers. It's not only like the willingness to pay, but it's also people like my mom, right? She would never use an OTT device unless there is relevant content for her, and there is relevant content coming out there. So all of a sudden she's like, shit, I have to get this like from my phone to my TV or whatever, calls me, how do I do it? She does it twice, she figures it out. So there's new people coming, being subscribers for these services. Number 3, we see an increasing number of OTT services. We just listened to what you said before, and obviously there is going to be niche players that go for a specific, you were mentioning sci-fi and horror, right? There will be other things just going into sports, just going into comedy. So we see these players that just focus on special interests. Number 4, there's growing investments in exclusive content. We heard this fantastic number, $8.2 billion. I would love to have at least like 1/10 of that to invest into content. I don't. But nevertheless, I mean, there is a growing investment because content is the only thing that you can differentiate through. Do I have 8.2 million? No, I don't, but I'm working on it. Number 5 is the increasing broadband penetration. I think that's a twofold interesting piece because on the one hand, it means people get easier access to their services, to these services. 5 years ago, Colin, we met 2 years ago, we were trying to do that, and it was still difficult, right? Because people didn't all have fast internet access. Now they do. 5 years ago, it was impossible to imagine you do live streaming. Now it's easy. It's another interesting aspect because, like, looking into the market, you do see a lot of players from the cable operators, they merge into being access players. And what are they going to do? Will they keep on investing into content? In Germany, you see Deutsche Telekom still doing it, Liberty Global, well, reducing their investments. So they're rather going into the way of just being an access player. So that's an interesting change in the market, I think, as well. So these are my 5, like, top pieces. And now you see the movement in the market that I envision, again, relating to Tom. Who knows what's going to happen? This is just my personal view on it. I think everyone is sort of moving into the middle, and this is where we're trying to build our new 7TV proposition too. And this is going to like be an evolution of, we've just started building the product. It's going to be re-released well, mid this year, and then having a substantial release by the beginning of next year. Let me summarize this slide. At the end of the day, what I believe is everyone is moving into that sweet spot, into the middle, being a platform operator. So, like, if you're today just linear, you want to look into non-linear content. We just heard the proposition from the UK before, having NPVR service. You want to have that on your platform. You want to have premium sports, premium content. Ideally, everyone is fighting for everyone. Like, and right now in Germany, through Amazon Prime, you can access Bundesliga. I'm pretty confident that they're going to bid for the next Bundesliga session in Germany. So potentially you might see Bundesliga content on Amazon in a couple of years. So everyone is moving to that sweet spot, and obviously we do as well. This is the ambition, at least. What's the 2 options? And that, again, relates very strongly to what Tom said. I think option number 1 is you just stick to where you are. You're going to be playing with the big fangers, as we call them. And then there comes the little Pac-Man and eats you all up. And We've seen that with the studios to a part, right? Everyone from Netflix did these great deals and then came home and I made millions of euros or dollars and the great deals. And what happened after 4 years or 3 years? Netflix said, thanks for letting me learn what customers like. Now I'm doing it by myself. And I just referred to that earlier on the sports piece. Potentially Amazon is going to do this and like bid for it because now they know how people do it, how people consume sports, how they churn. And so it's going to be dangerous. You might be eaten up. You might make big bucks on the short run, but at the end, you might get eaten up just like that. So what do we believe? We believe, let's build a multi-purpose platform and get the players together. And this is referring to my initial slides with Discovery Networks and the ProSiebenSat.1 group. We believe this is the first step. We're open for additional partners. We're in good conversations with that. Just announced yesterday that we have the first additional channels with Sport1 and N24 Welt, 2 local German brands that we add to the platform as well. And we believe this is the right way. Within the groups, I've mentioned it earlier, we have Maxdome as an SVOD, TVOD proposition. We have the Eurosports player. So thinking about how we can all merge that into larger platform, looking into the content that you did. We have Studio 71 Collective Digital in our group, adding that end as well and creating a one-stop shop. This is the strategy. This is what we're trying to build. What's the vision behind that? I think there's 3 core pieces to this, and that relates to everything we heard earlier today. Number 1 is the location. Where am I consuming this? It's a complete difference if I'm in my living room in the evening watching television or if I'm in the train in the morning. How am I consuming this? Am I using a big screen? Am I using a tablet? There is no real friction behind it anymore, but at the end of the day, it does change the situation. If I'm on a train, I'm very unlikely to watch on my television. I will be watching on my smartphone. And then the third piece is the content. But again, if I'm on the train, I'm not likely to watch a movie if it's just a 20-minute ride. So all these 3 pieces relate to each other, and at the end of the day, the task for the platforms like we're trying to build is how do I create the perfect experience? How do I learn about the needs of the customer at a certain situation on a certain device and make it the ideal fit, the ideal experience, increasingly seamless. You don't want to like start watching your television, move over to your mobile phone and have to restart the movie. You want to be exactly at the same point and you want to get the great suggestions that fit your habit. So this is the vision. How do we try to do that? Great technology, right? But no, it's not only technology. I think at the end of the day, it's also what comes back to the TV business, and this is where the 2 gaps are being closed. At the end of the day, television has made people learn to consume in a lean-back mode. Whereas if you go to Netflix, your recommendation will most likely be, you've watched episode 4 of Breaking Bad season 5, what are you going to suggest? Episode 5 of season 5. So it's a very linear way of recommendation, and it still doesn't recreate the linear experience. And I think when I took into consideration how do I consume television today, I might watch the news, I might watch some sports, then I might watch a show, and I go back to, I don't know, some comedy that my wife likes, and we go to sleep, and that's it. So this is really something I don't really want to bother about. I just turn on the television, most likely I switch through a few channels, and that's it. And this is something that I believe that none of the platforms yet out there have accomplished to do. And this is what we're trying to solve with the product that we're building. And that brings me to the last slide. We're trying to convert context into content. As I said earlier, you want to build the adaptive feed that is as good as possible. The more content we add, the more variety of content we add, the better the product can be. And that relates to what I said earlier. We are open to partners. We are looking into, this is why I passed you over my business card. We're looking into different opportunities of like how to make service more relevant, because relevant is in the eyes of the customer. It's not only what we believe is relevant. If you think the Facebook movie of like 20 seconds explaining how you do a pizza, it's relevant for you, it's relevant content. It's not what the distributors say what is relevant, it's what the consumer wants. So you will have to have this platform that ideally brings all this together, and this is the end of my presentation. So thank you very much.
One quick question. We have time for one quick question.
Thank God. I didn't prepare any. So I will be around anyways if there is further questions.
Here, please.
Hello, it's John Moulding from VideoNet. How realistic is it that you could get some of the other major German broadcasters on board? And if they did want to, would they want a share? Because currently it's a 50-50. Would you have to split that out to make that realistic?
Yes, so as I said, we have already included Sport1 and the Springer proposition, Welt 24. which will come to the platform. The public broadcasters are fairly likely as well because they have sort of a must-carry situation in Germany. So coming from that, there is also Viacom, there's the RTL group. I'm not a prophet, but we're in good conversation with all of them. Will they be shareholders? Some might, some won't be. For us as a platform, it really doesn't matter. I think if you want to be a shareholder, that relates to the story that I said earlier. You can create something bigger and be a local hero towards strong US players. At the end of the day, you won't compete with them, right? Because 8.2 billion, I said that I'm not going to face it. I can just be the local hero. I can be the second next choice next to Amazon or Netflix. This is what we're trying to do. But yeah, it's very likely that we're looking into 70-80% coverage of the public broadcast, of the general broadcasters in Germany, plus then adding more relevant content out of the general scope of the linear television.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander.